What happens at football stays at football, right?
Yeah, all right.
Let's have some fun. It's football day.
Maybe you can hum the theme song. Won't hold it against you if you get parts wrong. While the memory's not too strong, there's a piece of you from a time long gone. So while these fuzzy warm feelings remain, question we ask is still the same. Is it a treasure or just plain lame? Is this still good?
Hello and welcome back to, you know what? I gotta take that back. That feels wrong. I'm gonna try something. Hello. And welcome back to Still Good, isn't it? I'm not committing to this bit. This is a podcast about taking off our nostalgia goggles, digging up childhood treasures, and seeing how much they've decomposed, if we can sell any of it, if we can find some specialty meat shops to scrape off the skin of the childhood treasures. You could stop me at literally any time.
No, I think you're doing great. That voice is Sage Builderback. He's a host of this show.
This voice was Gavin Murray. I guess we're doing it this way now. Now, mate.
Yeah.
We're gonna do a bunch of bits in a row here.
Okay.
I've heard that you've been getting really into soccer lately.
Of course.
It's actually
yes.
football.
Oh.
We're gonna cut that.
Entirely.
Entirely.
Socks are pulled all the way up.
Yeah, well then you would know the theme song to the Manchester United Football Club, correct? Would you like to sing it with me right now? My baby takes the morning train. We don't have to go all the way through.
I saw this on the notes and I was like, I don't remember this part well enough to.
You can't give away the game that we have notes. This is a very yes and loosey goosey improv podcast.
The loosest, the goosiest, yes.
So what do you want to watch today?
Oh, I figured we'd start off with Green Room.
Oh no, this is too bad because I actually watched Green Knight.
Oh no. Okay.
All right, so listeners to this podcast will know that over the last couple things we've offered a fan contest.
Mm-hmm.
And basically how this works is...
Widely publicized fan contest. We brought it up for like 2 years. And what happens is if you send us an email or rate the podcast, you and a friend can come out and just hang out at Gavin's house. That is true. And I'll say that we got scores and scores of emails.
Yes.
And
by which you mean a rating, correct? A score.
Several birds without messages tied to their legs have just been showing up at my house, and I thought it had something to do with that.
Mm-hmm. People throwing pigeons through our windows.
Yeah, and then this giant guy with like a British accent showed up and kept yelling through windows that I was a wizard, and I got kind of scared. The cops have been alerted to the situation, but he still keeps showing up.
We should do the live ones more. I feel good about the back and forth, but I do feel like we could introduce our guests at any time.
That sounds wise and healthy.
Who are you? Why are you in Gavin's house? I'd introduce you if I actually knew like your full names or anything about you.
Okay, my name's Atlas Azure. I don't know how I got here, but I'm here. I'm a multidisciplinary artist from London. I grew up in Birmingham, but yeah, I'm out in LA, and thank you for having me on the podcast.
Thank you for being here.
And Paul James Houghton.
Winner of the contest.
Apparently. So glad I entered. Must have been on one of those nights that, I was drifting off into space. But I am a fan of the show. I think it's great. And worked with Gavin a lot. As recently as music video and Once Upon a Riot.
And I'm trying to place y'all's accents.
Yeah, what side of the road do you drive
Midwestern?
on traditionally?
Australian?
I know. So living in America for a long time definitely it contributes to an accent change for sure. And I know there's a twinge in there that makes me sound a little bit Australian, so people say. But I'm from just north of London, a place called Houghton, which you know well because you were filming there with us. I wouldn't say recently, but previously. So just north of London, about 30 miles north of London. They do have a great football presence.
Weird that you mentioned that.
We bought a scarf for Sage from Luton Town Football Club, which was also a prop for the film as set in 1992. But yes, I'm from just north of London, 30 miles north in Luton.
And where are you from?
I'm
All
from-
over.
Yeah, I've been traveling a little bit. So since last June, I've just been traveling. But before that, I was living in Kensal Rise, Brixton, Shepherd's Bush, up Birmingham. Yeah.
Right on. Doesn't sound like that has a lot to do with the Green Knight or Green Room.
Yeah, we didn't actually say what movie we're doing. So to clarify, for all you maniacs who just click on the episode and refuse to read the title, we are covering Lexi Alexander's 2004 film Green Street Hooligans, or possibly Green Street Elite. I found a couple different.
Possibly just hooligans.
What did you know this as in England?
Great. Yeah, Green Street Hooligans.
Okay.
Yeah.
Green Street Elite, I think, is the firm
Mm-hmm.
of the
GSE.
The GSE,
Like,
right?
every time I look this up, I see a lot of just parentheses.
Yeah, sure. But I think people have shortened it to Green Street.
Yeah.
Which is a different movie too, though, I think.
Is there a movie called Green Street? Another one?
There's a much older movie, but just because it showed up on IMDb doesn't mean it's a real movie.
Oh, right.
That is
Interesting. Yeah,
I
that's
will say,
interesting.
and like, this is a movie where the rights seem to be kind of all tied up. It was a little bit difficult. Well, there's a reason it's on YouTube, and no one has taken it down.
Right. That was
wait.
crazy to me.
Green Street Hooligans on you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because like I in having to see it again,
Yeah.
I thought I owned it on iTunes, and I'm like, oh,
I thought I owned it on Blu-ray.
You know
I don't
what's
know.
wild, though, is because we live in a very uncertain time. You may have bought it on iTunes and they lost the rights to be able to show it.
okay.
Entirely
And
possible.
then it disappears.
Little shout out for physical media.
Right. That did happen with Run Fat Boy Run with Simon Pegg. That disappeared off of
Okay.
iTunes.
Wow.
I owned that, and then it was gone. That was a weird one. I feel like I've been stolen. You know,
I would say you have been.
Right.
I think
Right.
Apple owes you compensation.
Somebody does for that film. It's a good film.
Well, Green Street Hooligans.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's a movie.
What do you want to know?
We've already mentioned that you guys seem to know the title of the film.
Yeah.
I'm curious as to when you might have first either heard about it or seen it.
Well, I first saw it not either right when it came out or not long after. Being a football fan, so I was very interested in it, and that I'm very interested in films that are based around this cultural fact of football and then football hooliganism. And
And we'll get into your history with American football in a bit.
yeah, right, because there is one. Yeah, for sure. Go Lions.
You mean hand soccer?
Soccer term, right? But yeah. So it wasn't long after, but I haven't seen it in a long time,
Okay.
which will come into play today, I think.
When you saw it first, was that in theaters, on DVD, VHS?
No, I saw it on disc. Yeah.
Okay.
where
Laserdisc.
It was probably I never owned a Laserdisc. Have you?
I have, because they make really nice posters, actually, but we don't need to get too far
Nice.
into that.
No, never seen one, but I saw it on DVD.
Okay.
Probably.
And how about you, Oz?
I've always heard about this film.
Oh.
But the first time I watched it was this morning.
Hey.
Hey,
You're in good company.
Well done.
That's similar to my story with this. Been an Elijah Wood fan for a long time. Always meant to get around to seeing
Yeah,
it.
same.
But sometimes it takes starting a podcast to get you to
literally.
see Green Street Hooligans.
I mean, the whole reason we did this is because I would just get pissed about how many movies I've assumed Gavin has seen, and just turns out, nope.
What's peek behind the curtain too is like this podcast is supposed to be a give and take of me showing Sage movies that he's maybe not seen, and somehow this was my week, and yet here we are yet again, me being the fool.
This was a fan contest. We've already established that, so I don't
Sorry, I
know what
didn't mean
bit
to
you're doing.
Break kayfabe, I apologize. Sage, how you've apparently heard of this movie before and maybe seen it?
This was I forget if it was high school or college favorite. This is just one of those movies that kind of just got like passed around and became everyone's favorite movie, and no one really had enough film literacy to really properly judge the quality of it. It is just like I'm trying to think the equivalent. We've covered a lot of those on it, but it's just like this is a movie that people already handed to me as one of their favorite movies, so it definitely became one of my favorite movies. And it's a movie that I don't think I've seen in a while, but I've definitely seen 5, 6, 7 times.
Oh wow.
I was sure that I had the DVD, but I didn't find it, so I ended up watching a super compressed copy on YouTube.
Yes, 720, right?
720p
Yeah.
is such a lie.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think that was. I think that was 720, and then they like ran it through a couple of VHS scans
Right,
and slowly degraded it. No, this was, and for me, this was the introduction to like honestly one of my film heroes, Charlie Hunnam.
Wow.
Yeah, Charlie Hunnam, and then went from there to a lot of Sons of
Undeclared's
Anarchy and a lot
Charlie
of Undeclared
Hunnam.
Charlie Hunnam. Honestly, I watched Undeclared more because of my love for Green Street than any
Oh,
of
wow.
the other famous comedians involved in it.
I mean, it's a charming show.
Yeah.
Have you all seen Undeclared?
No, we haven't. We did talk about on the way over Sons of Anarchy and realizing he's a lead in that, and then some other great films that he's been in, like The Gentleman and like this Guy Ritchie sort of relationship.
Yeah, he's doing
King
that now.
Arthur as well.
Yeah,
right?
He's
King
in a couple
Arthur.
Del Toro movies.
Mm.
Oh.
He's the lead of Pacific Rim, obviously, probably his biggest movie. But he's also got a supporting role in
Rebel Moon.
Crimson Peak.
Yes.
Del Toro's Rebel Moon.
Well, he's in Rebel Moon too, right?
So I haven't
Probably,
seen
I
it,
don't
but
know.
I think I have heard as such.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, no, it is very funny now hearing all these names, and I really just think of him as the British kid from Undeclared.
Yeah.
But he's
Yeah.
the British kid that doesn't sound British.
Exactly. We need to get into
I mean,
that.
compared to a bunch of Americans at a
His-
college.
His accent in the
Yeah,
film,
just-
I thought he was Australian.
Yeah,
His
it
accent's
really
terrible.
did.
Yeah, people were putting. So here's the thing: to most American ears, I know that England just has more accents
Uh-huh.
in general. Like American accents are pretty broad and diverse, but like there's definitely less overall. It's not like you drive 30 miles. Sorry, 50 kilometers. That's not even fair. You guys still use miles. You got
Yeah, we're
fuck up
totally
system.
miles. Yeah,
Yeah,
totally
I
miles.
use miles more than kilometers.
Yeah, we don't know. That's Europe where they use kilometers.
Yeah. England
Kilometers.
famously
We all
not a
know
part of
England,
Europe.
Not a part of Europe. Yep.
We tiptoe in and out,
Yeah.
you know.
But you go to the next town and there's, people have been speaking the language for 1,000 years longer.
Yeah.
Um,
No, you're so right, and it's relevant here because the actor's from Newcastle, right?
okay.
So, and it was a shocker to me seeing it again, how terrible it is, and like I think over time with the films he's been in, it's improved.
His British accent has improved.
His London accent, because like The Gentleman, obviously that's a very London-based film. Like, so I mean, as far as he's progressed through his career, it's improved. But reflecting, because I haven't seen the film in a long time.
Mhm.
But it's clearly bad. Like the accent is really, really awful.
I
in
was even
retrospect.
noticing that
There
this
you go.
time. Yeah.
It-
I mean, I've
it does
developed
feel-
the ear more.
It feels forced.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Right.
It's
Right.
I say there's a difference. There's a reason so many Brits can do wonderful American accents and like pull it off, and like
Yeah.
I'm still constantly learning that like actors I love are secretly British. It'll also happen on set a lot. I'm like, oh, I had no idea.
Oh, right. That's funny.
when they call cut and everyone starts babbling in their native accents, and just
Right.
like, you're all Australian.
Right.
But yeah, a lot of British people can do American accents. I think it's a
a lot of British
combination.
people also secretly Australian.
I've always said that.
What, like Charlie Hunnam?
Apparently.
So both, like, you grow up with a lot more American media and film than we grow up
Yeah.
with British. You're exposed more. That's most people's excuses. But I also just think we're just a lot more forgiving. I think a lot of it's just
Fair.
that simple. It's like, yeah, it's good enough. And Charlie Hunnam, I will say a lot, is like the way that he does American is he lowers his voice enough that the accent kind of disappears and he talks slowly, and I'm not doing a great example of it.
You sound pretty American to me.
But then there'll be, especially in like Sons of Anarchy or anything he's done it, he'll start screaming and like panicking, and you can hear the British when he does that.
Yeah, right. Inflection.
Like that's how you can tell when someone's British, is when they're yowling in American. Like there's something a little fucked up there.
It's hard to yell in an American accent as a British person.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I was told to always lower my voice if I wanted to do an American
Can we
accent.
hear your best American?
Nope.
Nah.
All right.
Oh, that's great.
Next
It would
time.
also be helpful if you at any point in this podcast use any sort of like British slang, if you could like stop and explain it to us like
Yeah,
we're
no,
children.
Right. Because there is like, I think it's funny because when we're doing our film, there is some Cockney in there to give this sort of London aspect of it. And I then realized again, was reminded that in this film, they really try and emphasize this point again with and make it also like a little feature of it at the beginning.
Yeah.
And
Or septic for yank.
that's what we do. Maybe cutting that now. Now I've seen Green Street again. We may be cutting our little.
You don't want to pay homage to Britain's best film?
It's when it makes you start feeling cringe about your own culture. Like, you have to be very delicate in the usage of that. I think so. But it is interesting, like, how those parts of the script that get inserted into this film are very interesting.
I mean, and because like speaking of, obviously it happens in this film quite a bit, but like I remember like having a paperback version of, oh my god, what's that? Clockwork Orange, and it has a whole lexicon in the back of the book.
Oh right,
You watched Clockwork Orange on paperback? Is this like pre-Laserdisc?
Yes,
brilliant.
and
By the way, we're gonna like isolate that laugh and just put it in as a laugh track on our other episodes.
No, no,
It's like
it's
the validation I am feeling right now.
it's going to be prominent. Again, also listening to a lot of episodes as well. I get to like at least reflect on all of the banter. Banter, there's one. There's one for you.
There's.
banter is a word that we use here.
Oh, is it?
Do you think we don't use banter? Like,
Well, I never hear you use it. I want to hear it more then. Is banter, is it used in the States?
yeah, I don't even think it's like, yeah.
Oh, I definitely feel
I don't
like
think it's slang.
No, it's just falanguage.
Yeah, all right.
The only
fair
weird
enough.
one is you guys.
Why? What does
Lost
banter
it.
mean in England?
I think it's more sort of jovial dialogue, right? It's like
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah,
I've
it's a
heard
little-
of witty banter is
Okay,
more often how
fair
you use
enough.
it.
Yeah,
used.
jovial from Jupiter. I'm following you.
there you go. So, all right, so that's not one yet. We'll definitely.
I'm
be
sure it will
letting
come
them
up
out.
at some point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Now, jovial would be a better example. It's a word that we know because it is in American English, but like I've never heard an American say the word jovial.
I feel like I've written it.
Yeah.
though.
But it's not slang. though.
No, it's
No,
not.
no, no.
It's definitely not slang. So yeah,
We're just
Nah.
inching our way towards slang.
Yeah, like you all call flashlights torches. That's what I think.
oh, there's
of.
so many.
Wait,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, boot
yeah,
and
they're
trunk
torches.
and hood and bonnet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's lots of. I think when people came over from the UK, there was an emphasis on changing certain words so that you further distance yourself from the place that you
In
left.
1776, they started calling torches flashlights.
You know,
Started calling tea
and then
coffee.
invented them.
But
You know?
also, you guys call pancakes hotcakes.
No,
See,
Maybe someplace. I've seen it on a menu
I
as
ordered
hotcakes.
pancakes from McDonald's the other day, and it said hotcakes. And I
Well,
was
McDonald's
very-
is an Irish restaurant.
Is it- Fair.
yeah, I
Um,
mean, yeah, there are lots of changed words for sure.
yeah, and some of that's just regional too. Like we call them pancakes.
yeah.
I have pancake mix in the kitchen.
yeah,
Where's
it's pancakes.
Pancake Day? When? Yesterday.
I call them flatties.
Shrove Tuesday.
Flapjacks.
Was it?
I think it was Shrove Tuesday yesterday, right? Or was it last
The,
week?
the confusion on all the faces. This is what we're looking
Shrove
for, right?
Tuesday?
Yeah,
Shrove Tuesday is
Pancake Day.
Pancake Day. It's a Tuesday.
Ash Wednesday.
Is that like
was
Taco
It's today,
Tuesday?
right.
Ash Wednesday, I know of.
So Shrove Tuesday in England, and they're more crepe-like, these pancakes, because they're a lot
Wait,
flatter.
is this a Christian thing? I'm confused.
Is this wait? Is your Fat Tuesday?
And
Is your
I'm not
Mardi
claiming
Gras?
to be religious by any means, but it's just one of those days in England.
The day before Lent, right?
Yeah, right.
So it
you
is-
just eat as much.
Yeah,
like-
Yeah,
I think so.
exactly,
I think they're lying to us.
We call it Fat Tuesday.
You actually call it Fat
Of course, 'cause
Tuesday.
it's
That's
America.
literally what Mardi Gras means.
Mardi
I love
Gras.
that.
Yeah.
I've never
Well, you don't
heard
have
of-
Mardi
You've
Gras.
never
in the
heard
UK?
of Mardi
No,
Gras?
have you heard of Mardi?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
because you live here.
It's a bit where it's in New Orleans. It's a very big New Orleans.
Yeah.
thing.
Mardi
Well,
Gras.
You've heard of Carnival?
Big throughout the America.
I
came
love that
out
you're
just
doing
then, I
the
heard it.
French term in
Mardi Gras.
a strong American accent.
It did pop out. I did hear it. Like you edgy.
Yeah,
I know
it
you
won't
will-
come out again.
We'll see. We'll see.
No, I just want to hear you pronounce foreign words in an American accent. Like,
Give me-
say quesadilla.
Quesadilla.
All right.
Yeah.
I guess he didn't
quesadilla.
know to do quesadilla or something.
Quesadilla, yeah.
Yeah.
I get made fun of for
Taco.
Apparently,
Do
I
it as
can't
a
say- I
tiny
can't
mouse
say it
who's
right.
running too fast.
So at some point we might have to get back to this movie.
Oh, right.
Do we have
So,
to?
Green Zone is a Paul Greengrass movie.
Oh no. It's Green Street Hooligans.
Yeah.
Shall we get into some sort of summary of this movie?
Explain a little bit of this movie.
Having just seen it for the first time, would you like to do the honors?
Oh wow, I'll give it a go. So basically this kid comes from America and he goes to visit his sister because he's just been kicked out of Harvard University, and his sister's husband or fiance has this brother who is part of a football gang, and basically the kid from America ends up becoming friends with the dude from the football gang, and he sort of like hangs out with him and gets immersed in football hooligan culture, and they then find out that he was studying journalism, but they hate journalists, so that causes its own problems.
Do they hate journalists? I didn't catch that.
And then, long story short, he goes through this like rites of passage, and he's sort of accepted and becomes a man and a hooligan. The end.
See, Gavin, that's how you do that.
Wow, masterclass.
No notes.
I think
Yeah.
In a
American
nutshell.
gets pulled out and introduced to a secret underground world he wasn't aware of. It's obviously not underground over there, but like, is any of this real? Is this a thing? Is this?
this is funny, right?
Yeah,
I
because
love
this just
talk.
sounds like absolute nonsense.
Well, and to be clear, I think we understated slightly the amount of violence that is. People are killed in this movie. Over,
we should also clarify that this
Yeah.
movie is not about football at all. They go to one match. Elijah
true.
Wood gets his butt kicked by some kids at football, and then we never see it a reference. People go to games and we don't see the game. We just see the fight in the parking lot. It stops
It
like
is a
even
lot
pretending to
cheaper
be about
to
football.
not show a full crowd.
Sure. It
Yeah,
might
yeah.
just be budget, but also just like just not what the movie's actually
You're
about.
right.
So it's not
You're
like
right.
he's being exposed
Well-
to, as he keeps calling it, soccer.
Right.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah. I mean, and that's one of the things I do want to get into is like in terms of the reality of firms or club. Or
Yeah.
How much is it actually about football?
Right. Okay. I think it's a great conversation, especially again, watching it again. First of all, hooliganism in Britain, and I should probably say more England, so that I don't offend people that are going to listen to this from back home. They were banned from Europe, right, for their intense hooliganism. The England fans that had gone to games, I think it was Liverpool, that went over to Europe and really made a mess for the football fan from England, and they got banned because of hooliganism.
Like in Eurotrip.
Right now, for real, right? And so it does exist, and there are rivalries in England, and sports in general is very different, right? So in America, and we can do the comparisons here. You can go to an American football game as like a Steelers fan and sit next to a Lions fan, and you probably will be okay.
Maybe. I really don't know.
Well, I think that there's more acceptance. You can go to a hockey game, whatever sport, and not feel like you're going to be beaten up.
Yeah.
You know, in England, there is a very specific
Yep.
separation between away fans and home fans because of the tensions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like they do call
This is like empty seats.
yeah,
Like in the middle because you need.
yeah, there can
space.
be, or a line of stewards, or like whatever police,
Mm.
whatever it is, because there are intense. Like when they describe football, not soccer, which again is emphasized in the movie as well, which is funny. When they talk about it as a religion, it really is that there are people so devoted, and there are films like Fever Pitch, the original one, which talk
The
about
romantic film about baseball.
yeah, and which is the original one is actually a British film about an Arsenal fan. It's actually
Oh,
Colin.
the book. You mean?
No, Colin Firth is in the film.
Oh, okay.
It's he's an Arsenal fan and he gets in this relationship with his teacher.
So it really is Romeo and Juliet.
Oh, I heard what you said yesterday. I heard what you said on the last one. That was brutal about Romeo and Juliet and teenagers, annoying teenagers.
I think
The point.
quick aside, I think this movie should have had a romantic subplot where Elijah Wood is dating someone on the Millwall
is,
side,
right?
and then you could have just called it West Ham Story.
That was good.
Didn't like is that in the notes?
Continue, hooligans.
But I think there is.
That was the first thing I texted Gavin after watching this
That's
movie.
funny. And I got a little bit uncomfortable with the fact that there does seem to be a romantic relationship because of the jealousy between.
Oh yeah.
The two.
What's his
two-
name? Bother.
Bother. I know, which is a
Yeah.
unique character name in itself.
Yeah. And he's a bit of a bother, isn't
Yeah,
he?
he is a bother.
Yeah.
He's very bothersome.
But don't worry, they mask it all in an uncomfortable amount of gay panic.
Right, yeah, right. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So there is that in there. But I guess cutting to the chase. So yes, it's a real thing. There are massive rivalries. Millwall does come up a lot, funny enough, in all these rivalries. So
Okay.
Millwall seems to be at the heart of it all.
I was sent actually, like, Sage, you sent me like a thing that included specifically some of the types of, like, they reminded me of like prison weapons. That is
Not
like
Shanks.
it's like what you can get into a pitch, like, or what you can get onto a pitch in terms of getting past security.
Oh,
because, as you
right.
said, there's just like such a history is going to breed. Like, I'm curious to hear who's funding all these police. Like, that just sounds expensive at a certain point. But like a special Millwall had you take a newspaper, you roll it up really tight, fold it over, and then fill it with coins.
Oh yeah.
So that you have like I
Yeah.
guess a baton or like blackjack style weapon,
right.
similar to, like, in this movie they talk about the Chelsea grin. I think is that
It's Chelsea Smart. Yeah,
Chelsea Smart.
they
Oh,
do
yeah.
call it a Chelsea grin in there. That is a real thing with the credit card or the card in the
Right.
mouth, and then it's a punch to the stomach basically, and because you can't resist the scream, it's like cuts the corners of your mouth, right? And you have to get that stitched up. So
Well, I
yeah,
don't
really
like that.
brutal English things. For lack of guns, they come up with sort of inventive ways to hurt people in other
Yeah,
ways.
bit of the old ultra violence. Yeah,
Yeah, a bit of the ultra violence, which is it is a problem. I mean, there is a certain amount of violence in the UK.
Well, it's knives, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's knives. And in fact, the person that you met, Cy Philly, is an advocate for anti-knife violence. So, but it's a big deal. Yeah, it's a big deal.
Mm.
yeah, getting stabbed doesn't sound fun. I'm not pro knife either.
yeah.
Right.
England seems awful. That was actually the first thing I texted Kevin after finishing. It was like, this doesn't seem like a chill place at all.
So
Have
you've
you
never
ever
been?
been?
Right.
So my I've got a weird relationship with England, with London specifically. I've been to London 4 times and it's never been on purpose.
Oh, right.
It's just been like airlines fucking me over when I'm just supposed to transit through London. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
exaggerating. One of them was like planned to spend the day, but it ended up being multiple times at night. And, I've got plenty of friends in London that I've met traveling. None of them are actually British, but they're all living in London now.
Yeah.
But, like, I think since enough of our culture does come from England, we're obviously very different places. But when I travel, I'm way more interested in getting just away from all of that. Ideally with as few white people as possible.
Yeah. No, right. I
But
hear you.
failing that, like France or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
You should go to Nigeria.
Yeah, that sounds great. I'm going to Mauritania next month.
Oh, sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, mate. You do travel a lot, and it comes up a lot in the podcast, right? Which is really great.
Believe me, I try and avoid it. I can't
Yeah.
stop him.
And I keep trying to buy you maps.
No, it's awesome. It's awesome. Oh, there's a very American word, isn't it? Awesome.
Is it?
Yeah, don't tell me that's made its way over. as
Do
well.
you mean brilliant?
Yeah, there you go. That's
Yeah.
a very classic Brit one. Brilliant.
we
It's
say
brilliant.
brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. Proud of that.
Yeah,
one.
we don't. Awesome. Well, I know someone that says awesome a lot, but just
Look,
one
my
person.
friends in the Marsh Farm Massive, shout out to my little crew back home,
Yeah.
ridicule me all the time for saying
You
the word
do say
awesome.
a lot.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Now it's getting plugged in. Now to not do it. But yeah, that's what I think. That's one.
We should get an awesome count going.
You know what I never heard in this film that I associate so much with just a thing you would expect Charlie Hunnam to say in a movie? No one says legend.
Oh right. Well, yeah, he's a. That's a good.
Yeah.
That's a good
True.
point. That is a definitely.
And this movie
a
is
word.
clearly full of absolute legends.
Well, when
Yeah.
is this set? Like, is this set in the 2000s?
It's contemporary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think it is current.
And was there a peak in terms of hyperviolence, in terms of hooliganism, or
Yes.
has that ebbed and flowed?
Especially
The 80s.
We're in Birmingham as well with the Zulus.
Yeah, for sure.
So that was Birmingham's hooligans, right?
Right. So we're talking, I mean, the 80s for sure. I mean, that's when you see that 1985 crazy situation at Luton Town. I think the late 70s, 80s were really the heightened part of it. Really, you don't hear about it too much anymore. You know, I mean, there's obviously tension around certain games like derbies, which, you know, or rivals, you
Arsenal,
know.
Tottenham.
Yeah. So there are tensions, but you don't really hear of organized crime, which is what hooliganism kind of is, you know, organized crime.
Well, that's what we were curious about too. Is like, you know, in America we have gang culture. It does have to do with like, you know, rep and stuff, but like at a certain point, it also is very much tied into drugs, and it is business. You're in business, and you stand to gain or lose economic like ability and survival.
Yeah, this is rep.
It's just rep.
It
There's
really
no
is.
drugs or
No.
I don't think so.
protection
No.
rackets.
That's how serious football is in England. It's like pretty much
tribalism.
Yeah, that's right. It's like that alignment. It's like you know, you're sort of like, you grow into it as a child. You're sort of probably like based on, you know, whether it's your father or parents or like friends or like where you live. It's a very, you align yourself to that, and then you grow with it, right? So
It's just like gangs.
yeah, it is like gangs, but for a different reason. It is because we're in LA, obviously, which is known globally for its gang violence.
What are you talking about?
Was it like,
Well, for true, right? It's true.
Yeah.
what is it? You guys
I
have
missed
the
the
Bloods
Super Bowl.
out
What are
here?
you talking about?
There's a long history of a lot of gangs out here, but this is kind of the capital of like the Bloods and Crips, were the kind of most infamous gangs in terms of their.
Should I wear neutral colors?
I think you'll be okay in this day and age, but red is a choice.
Yeah, red is a choice.
Am I allowed to swear on the?
Oh, my,
Ask his daughter.
If somebody
he's told you.
yeah.
Was she swearing? On the...
He told you that we got feedback from our younger audience that maybe I curse a little bit too much.
Threatens of pinchings.
Yeah. To be fair, she does love the show. As an 11-year-old, I think that's good news.
But
I mean, I
will
find
say if
that
somebody
terrifying.
does ask you where you're from in a very serious tone, your accent will keep you safe.
But that's
true,
also the same thing in London, though.
Yeah.
I just say Birmingham. Because in London, if someone asks you where you're from, it's like
That's a check.
Yeah,
That's the check. Yeah.
and even once I said to someone, I was like, "I'm from Nigeria. Where are you from?" I was like, "Do you even own your home? How can you ask me where I'm from and fight over a postcode and you're paying rent?"
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that's it.
Well, so what's your do you follow a team or?
see, I was born into Arsenal. My
Okay.
dad said, whilst you live in
Oh,
this
for crying out
household,
loud.
you support Arsenal.
That's ridiculous. And Luton does not like Arsenal. Luton's got a famous
Oh.
history with Arsenal.
Am I?
Littlewood's Cup final.
Am I not staying in Orange County anymore?
No, yeah, like you take your suitcase back up to the hills where
See,
you
this
came
is how
from.
deep it runs.
This is funny, yeah.
Well, it's funny that's generational in
Mhm.
terms of also like, I mean, and I don't know how often people are moving around from town to town, but like that's part of like, you know, like you said, postcode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, how does that work when you move out of a town? Like I wasn't really raised with like a deep connection to any sports teams. Like I had Giants gear, but like
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
not a
You're
baseball
a San
fan.
Fran person.
Yeah, I had a Niners poster, which I remember looking at one day and realizing none of the players were still on the team, and I was like, I don't know why that's still on my wall.
Now the Niners are the San Francisco 49ers.
Right. Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
And football is American football, which we play with our hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is
And a
skit.
poster. You have a different word for. You must have a different word for poster.
No,
poster.
Poster.
All right, we'll cut that.
Oh, it's like Love Actually when they're going to all the words that sound different as well. You know, bottle,
Bottle.
table.
bottle
oh no,
of
that's the
water.
same.
Well enunciated.
Were you expecting water?
See,
It does happen
my
a
dad
lot.
says water. Water.
Water. Where's he from?
He doesn't act, but it's
Philly.
That's an East Coast accent.
Oh.
Or
Blast
my
some muddy water.
best attempt at it.
Fair.
But yeah, no. So what was it like then? Did you go to Arsenal games growing up?
I actually didn't. So, because my dad was so into football
Okay.
and he was also a football coach,
Hmm.
he made me play football from very young. So,
Mhm.
from like 4 to 12 years old, I was playing football twice a week and I was coach's son. So,
Oh, right.
by the time I
Was
was
that great or awful?
I just got bored of it
Okay.
real quick because, I'm playing football all week for just under 10 years and I'm going home and they're watching football.
Oh, right.
So
Overkill.
I was sort of like, nah,
Yeah.
fuck this sport.
Yeah, right.
Because also, for me, I can't watch people kick a ball for 90 minutes. And I have a lot of respect for the sport and they're incredible athletes and a lot goes into it. I just can't do it.
It is a
Just-
low-scoring sport. I'll give you that.
It's a very American answer.
It's-
We're
That is a
converting
very
him.
American.
Yeah.
Get out. Go.
Clinic, like-
Leave. What? I brought you in as an advocate.
Most Yanks,
Sorry.
most Americans you talk to will respect the sport, and I think you probably don't realize like most of us grow up playing it.
Yeah.
Like,
I
it's
know. Yes,
very,
definitely know
very
that.
popular
I played it for years.
sport.
I enjoy
for
playing
children.
it.
Right.
Yeah.
I think.
And then we just
It
all
is.
stop caring about it on,
It
on a
is
national
true.
Well, I
organized
mean,
level.
that being said, I have when I first moved down to LA, one of my roommates actually ran a football podcast. So it was like constantly on European times.
Mhm.
Like he'd be down at like 3 a.m. watching games and shouting throughout the house. We also grew up like it's obviously a very popular sport when it gets to the bigger stages.
Mhm.
So you'd have like bars would stay open
Yeah.
like past much normal and possibly
Yeah.
legal now that I think about it. But I remember going to like bars at 4 a.m. just because like, why
a
not?
football
Sure, I'll like
game.
go check this out. I remember taking a buddy who was blackout drunk at 6 a.m. and had started drinking at 4.
Yeah.
Just like, what are we doing? But,
Yeah, that's the noon games, right? That start at 4 a.m. And there are places like there's a place in Seal Beach as well that opens up. There's a Chelsea based pub.
Yeah.
They do open up really early. I don't know if they're selling beer at that point, but maybe they. Who knows?
Yeah, I know you're not supposed to sell beer after 2, but I don't know when you're allowed to start.
Right, to start
Yeah,
selling it
that's-
again.
I've had some nights where they just start selling beer again at a certain point. I'm like, oh, I didn't know you could do it. It's like 5 a.m. or something. Depends
Yeah,
on the
right,
area.
right.
Yeah.
But for me, like, so again, a huge contrast then. To
Yeah.
Luton town for me, is like my dad first took me to Luton, and then they were in what's called the First Division at the time. Since then, funny enough, the Premiership was invented the first season that when Luton was relegated, which means go down to the next division. When the Premiership came about, and then they were never in it until last year. I mean, being a Luton.
Congratulations.
And now they're at the bottom of the championship, so they went straight back down, and they're doing terribly. I think they're a space above the bottom. But being a Luton supporter has been really painful experience because they went all the way down to what was sort of called the Village League, which is really out of the football divisions.
It sounds like it.
It's really like a
The Hamlet division.
where it's like that you're out of real football.
The Shire League.
The Shire League, yeah. And then they bounced back up and they made their way all the way back up again. So, it's been following them has been tough, and especially from overseas. So one of the things I discovered moving to America was you can't watch your team on television, right? That was a big adjustment for me, where I had to like adopt a Premiership team in order to still have some association with the sport.
Who'd you
right?
adopt?
Oh man, my friends are gonna hate on me. I adopted Chelsea because they were relatively close.
The pub.
the football.
You adopted
no,
the pub.
right? No, because the pub's in Seal Beach, right? But just because of I'm like, I looked at. This is true, right? I looked at the distance from Luton, which was the next closest team. It was
Still
Tottenham.
about a postcode, then, is what you're saying.
Yeah, sort of. At least to have some distance involved. Tottenham was the closest team. I'm like, there's no way I'm supporting Tottenham.
You can't do that.
It's not a chance. And so Chelsea was the next closest, and that was that. But then, fortunately, they started showing the Championship. Luton got back, and I could shift back to watching my hometown.
Well, and so you, I'm assuming, went to games growing up.
Yeah. It was a joy. It was standing. I mean, like it was Oak Road standing end, so it'd be standing at the fence. You know, it's like now it's all seats, but back then it was standing and pushing down to the front as kids, and looking through the fence to see the games. Yeah, it was a joy.
Was there ever any dark side to that in terms of hooliganism?
I think looking back on it now, it's funny, right? Because like as a parent, you sort of look for situation, right? I think as a child, you're innocent, like sort of like, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You were really innocent in this, in going to games.
Until you get to 12. And then,
you start realizing. Then you start realizing.
Well,
Oh yeah.
just we kind of skipped over it, but there is a child murder in this movie that is kind of we find out a driving incident for some of the characters.
Right.
For what's his name, Hatcher.
Yeah. The son, right?
No, Hatcher, the guy
Tommy.
from Millwall.
Yeah.
Right.
His son gets killed, right? Yeah.
Which
Anyway. So I think I now think back and realize that my father was probably looking out for situations going to and from the game.
Did you wear colors do you guys call them colors, or what would you call like a jersey?
Yeah, like
they just put a U in it.
for no reason at all. I know.
That was added after we started.
Of course, it fucking was, Gavin.
But yeah, okay. So
yeah, we have color like ours are orange and white, and West Ham is claret and blue. So there are these colors, and then red. Look at the alignment we had today, coincidentally. So yeah, Chelsea blue, the Reds, Man United, of course, and so colors are important. It's part of the kit.
Yeah, that's also what in terms of looking for, because this movie does seem like, as you said, it doesn't really take place at games. It takes place
in the parking lots of games.
In the parking lots of games,
and a lot of tunnels and alleys.
Yeah, just
just
outside of the eye shot of the old Bill.
Right. Yeah, I know.
Which is what British people call the cops.
Used to.
The old Bill.
We call them the feds now.
Oh,
but that's quite American, isn't it?
That's the new Bill.
I mean, that's the specific cops are the feds.
Nice.
But do you guys not call cops feds?
Well,
we call the federal police.
Yeah,
so like FBI would be the feds.
Cops.
We call all of them feds, pigs.
We have a lot of cops. Yeah. Buzz,
very,
I think
very well funded.
Buzz is more of a British one, right?
Fuzz.
Buzz.
That's a very Simon. That's a very Simon Pegg. That's a very Simon Pegg
before
term.
Hot Fuzz.
Edgar Wright.
I've never heard anyone call it fuzz in real life.
No, I think in it plays well in the film, Edgar Wright film with Simon Pegg and Hot Fuzz, but nobody calls it that.
Yeah.
You see, when we get all of our British slang from Edgar
film
Wright,
titles,
Simon Pegg
from Edgar Wright and Guy Ritchie. Like if you want to. If you want to give me slang I haven't heard from before, you pick it from not a Guy Ritchie and not Doctor Who.
Oh, you're a Doctor Who fan?
As much as an American can be, yes.
Right.
I think some Americans would argue with you on that.
That's true. We got some freaks.
Let's not piss off the Doctor Who fan base.
That is probably half of our fan base.
Oh, that's funny. But there is, Guy Ritchie, so Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, which I believe is one of your faves. I think that does well in representing language from British culture or
of a certain
English,
time.
a certain time for sure. And I think that then what was the next film?
Snatch.
Goes on to play with it more.
Yeah.
That's not Brad Pitt, is it?
Yeah, it's the Brad Pitt one, who does actually a
Irish
pretty
Gypsy
decent job in that film.
so.
It's got to be said, So I think there's definitely language films which you can definitely draw from and say it's fairly authentic. I think this one has trouble. This one has trouble. This one definitely has trouble with that. We can get further into, I suppose.
Well, yeah, let's do it. I'm honestly one person whose voice I kind of want to talk about is Elijah Wood. Honestly, in this film, he's got the softest voice imaginable for a film that is about punching people in the face over and over again.
Can we talk about casting? Should we go there
Sure,
next?
yeah.
Oh, good Lord. I rewatching it. I'm like, I couldn't believe it. I know he had some massive films right before. I think the
yeah, and to be clear, I think I love Elijah Wood. I think he's an amazing actor, and he takes very cool, interesting role.
Yes.
Yeah, he's become a little horror darling.
Yeah.
Just like
Yeah.
America's
He's
favorite
great.
little freak.
Speaking of podcasters, like I
He's
really
great.
enjoy his podcast
Oh,
where
yeah.
he just goes around doing very casual interviews with people who are affiliated with horror film.
Yeah.
And he's been producing stuff like Andy was a huge hit. Like he's taking some very interesting chances after Lord of the Rings was what broke him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then
I mean, he was a child actor in the 90s as well. And
yeah,
a bunch
you're
of
right.
Stuff,
I'm
yeah.
forgetting. Was he in The Faculty?
Wait, no. So he was in Oliver. So this is funny. He was in Oliver Twist with Richard Dreyfuss. Dreyfuss, which was so. My only acting claim to fame was in high school. I was the Artful Dodger.
Oh,
In Oliver Twist, and Elijah Wood played the Artful Dodger in Oliver Twist. In that film, I'm like, I didn't even realize there was I think it was 1997 Oliver Twist version with Richard Dreyfuss. Never seen it. I'm amazed that there are several Americans playing roles in Oliver Twist, which is a very British
Lovely.
Charles Dickens film. But yeah, so I'm with you. I really admire him as an actor. I think he's really should have been somebody else in this film.
Yeah, I think so too.
yeah. And I can't tell. Some of that might be just the way that it's written too. Is like you have to do. Because the crux of this film, too, is he is kicked out from his college for not standing up for himself.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
then when he goes to the UK, he's showed how to stand up for himself and people he cares about.
Yeah.
And it's a little hard to buy. But just that through line, and then he comes back and he,
Throws that guy on the floor.
and beats up his college bully.
From
I
a massive
guess.
transformation of a
Yeah.
culture.
Doesn't even fully
right.
beat him up. He just pushes him.
Yeah, now he wears a little bit of eyeliner.
Right. Got a little cut above his eyes and
he's-
butterfly stitches.
And he's also, he studied journalism, so he knows how to do a recording, I guess.
Yeah, it's all.
The
real-
dad
real
through
quick-
line of this was
Real
weird.
quick fact check the ones we're forgetting. He is in The Faculty, but his big breakout was The Good Son
Oh, right.
in 93. So he'd been
With
like acting
Culkin?
in Ice Storm, so he'd been acting through the 90s and then, fell. Just kind of like people also forget that who's fucking Aragorn in the Viggo Mortensen was also in a lot of shit before Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I mean-
and most of the people in Lord of the Rings were in a lot of stuff. One of them was in the Goonies.
Was
Forgot about that.
was The Good Son with Macaulay Culkin as well? Was that the one?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I remember that. No, that was. I think it was. Again, without revisiting, I think it felt like it was a decent film.
Academy Award relative Macaulay Culkin.
Right, that's funny. So yeah,
So we've got. It sounds like we've got questions about both our leads in this film.
yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
have a problem with any of the other cast members. I felt like Hatcher was cast really well.
yeah, he was
So
great.
was
fun.
Yeah,
Bother was cast
Yeah.
really well.
I do like that character. Although I don't see this as
very
the
melodramatic.
the
It's just
crying
like,
part.
Is he a character? Is
Oh,
There's
wait,
no
which-
way he's
the-
bawling.
Do you mean the
Crying.
part in the hospital?
No, yeah, exactly. There's like, look,
I
True.
think he cried. a
if you
couple
were
times.
true, there is no. That is,
But that's the writer's fault or the
Well,
director's.
yeah, and
yeah, totally,
and
That-
part
that's
of it,
not
he's,
happening.
He's who's like the cousin in The Godfather, just like the most spineless
Fredo?
person on screen.
Oh,
Yeah, he's a real Fredo.
Yeah, he's very much a Fredo.
Yeah. And I would have loved for Charlie Hunnam to just kiss him on the lips and say, I know it was you. You broke my heart. You broke my heart, Bother.
For real. It's just, it just wouldn't happen. Like they should have taken that a different way.
That was one of my favorite scenes, though, is when he walks into I don't know if that was a restaurant or it seemed like it reminded me of like a breakfast joint, but I think it was at night.
Yeah, breakfast. Yeah, cafe sort of place.
Yeah, and
What do you call breakfast in England?
Breakfast or brekkie.
Brekkie, yeah,
okay,
brekkie.
Yeah.
Yeah, brekkie.
but him like assaulting the boyfriend in that couple,
Right.
Oh,
Just
just
whacking his head off the table.
Yeah, and that was like
It was a
That
good
could
scene.
happen.
Yeah,
That could happen. Like
That's
that is
true.
like for real. If you're in like a known football cafe or something,
So you guys have football cafes and football bars?
there are pubs.
pubs?
Yeah,
And
there
football
are definitely
pitches.
locations where you would expect to find your associates.
Do you
Okay.
do y'all have?
Because they introduce him the same way like they introduced the Kingpin.
Right.
So we have like an aspect of what we like fandom here is tailgating.
Yeah.
Is that a term over
No, nobody.
Tailgate, is that something to do
You
with
think
cars?
they have
Yeah.
pickup trucks?
Wait,
No, nobody's doing that.
Because that's what the tail is.
People
is
are meeting
true.
they're meeting at pubs before the game.
Right.
That's very traditional.
Well, and a lot of, I mean, in full disclosure, a lot of my understanding of the sport and the fans also comes from, which I'm sure everyone's a big fan of here, is Wrexham United.
I thought you were going to say Ted
What?
Lasso.
Wait, what?
Yeah, where's AFC Richmond in all this?
Yeah, not a real team.
So, quick aside, I brought this up on the podcast before. I thought almost all of the teams in Ted Lasso were made up. Not just because I hadn't heard them before. I mean, obviously, like, West Ham, Arsenal, a couple
Yeah.
of Manchester, like a couple of the big ones, yeah, but everything else. And I assumed it was more like from a legal thing, like to be able to play in the
Not
space
piss off the firms,
and
obviously.
and not get hooliganized to death.
That's
I
fine.
just assumed it would be safer to make things up because that happens in a lot of our movies where I'm just like, I've never heard of this team, but that's because they made it up.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a great point.
I
Really
got
interesting.
Paul. I gotta tell you, it's a directional mic. You gotta put it. In your mouth.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, so we did actually contact Luton Town Football Club to make sure that we could reference them in the film and the apparel.
Oh,
Right, so we did get the approval, which we're a little bit worried about because we got an actor wearing a Luton shirt in the film. So I think that there is a point to that, like to there must be some brand rights or what have you.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Ted Lasso, Wrexham. I think Wrexham has done a great job in their series. A great football documentary to watch is We Are Sunderland, which is on Netflix. That shows the true operations of a football club and then their demise are going relegated. That's a really good one as well. But yeah, Ted Lasso. It's decent.
I would like to hear Charlie Hunnam do that accent, do like an Oklahoma accent.
Oh, we're back to his accent, which is
We're
awful.
We're gonna circle back through it. What I truly love is like when in character in this movie he does an American accent. It's the most obnoxious thing ever.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah, that was bad. It gets worse. That's
yeah.
right.
When he mimics Matt.
Yeah, it was like
yeah, but he does it like in character, and it's exaggerated. Also, like this character knows much less about America than Elijah Wood knows about England going into this.
Yeah, you're right. Spot on.
Yeah.
No,
Oh, that's a term. Spot on.
spot on. Is there any relevance to? I mean, it sounds like were firms kind of made up by the journalists? Is that part of the history there?
Do they hate
No,
journalism? Is it? Has anyone
that-
said Journo? Because that's
Journo.
No, like I've never. Again, I'm not. So I was never deep in a firm.
Yeah,
So I don't know the perspective on journalists, but that was
you never
Something
deep in a
I-
firm. You were affiliated.
I knew what they were.
Careful.
I knew what they were, and we do definitely know people that are very aligned to their football teams. You know, I have some friends that are very aligned to Luton Town, and would stand up for them and have in the past. But yeah, I've never heard that about some hatred for journalists.
I did look on the Reddit for this movie, and there are a lot of football fans who don't seem to love this film too much,
Right.
and they were recommending some movies that came out before this. Specifically, I guess Gary Oldman was in one called The Firm.
Yep. The Firm.
And then,
Incredible actor.
Yeah, it really is.
and there's also a film that I
Which-
watched just the trailer of that I very much enjoyed called The ID.
Yeah.
That seems like it is Point Break, but with soccer hooligans.
It's funny. There's actually a list on IMDb, which I saved off here, that is the top football hooligan movies. And the first one is The Firm. Then it is The Football Factory. Green Street Hooligans
Number 3
is 3.
Okay, taking that bronze medal.
So there really is.
Do you guys have bronze medals in the UK?
we
Think you
try
mean
and
bronze
get
middies?
that's what we strive for in the Olympics, are bronze medals. We get those. But there's like a list of 7. I think The Rise of the Foot Soldier as well. Like there are several in there, but The Firm is the number one in there.
There you go, Gary Oldman at it again.
He's great.
I would
I'm a
like
big
to
fan.
re-emphasize something that I brought up before this podcast, that it's fucking insane that you said The Firm and you weren't talking about the Tom Cruise lawyer movie, and that you hadn't heard of it at all.
What? You haven't heard of the It's a
This
great
is the flip
film.
side. I've never heard about the movie we're talking
I'm not
about
alone.
right now. But
It's a great film. The
I
Fern
would
is a
argue
great
Atlas
film.
here maybe has more of an excuse than you do.
Right. No, it's a great. I do think that is a good film. The Firm with Tom Cruise. You need to watch that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's got a good
You can watch it.
storyline.
I've never seen it because it's one of 80,000 John Grisham 90s movies. But you know what? I have fucking heard of it, Gavin.
Well,
They made a TV show of it not too recently.
That's amazing.
it did rudely show up first when I was trying to Google the Gary Oldman
Oh, sure.
footy picture. So,
That's strange.
anything else?
Was that your Boolean? Was that your search? It's like Gary Oldman footy pick. Because you got to be careful with that.
Well done.
Did you try only footy?
Ah, nice. That's a good one. Well done.
One last thing I really wanted to bring about is just in terms of the filmmaking on this. It's a very green looking movie. And, you know, for again, a film that is, I think, kind of lower budget for what it is. Like, they did handle the violence scenes a little interesting. Whereas, like, when you think about comparing it to, say, like Saving Private Ryan being one side of the equation, where you're going with a high shutter and going for like heightened realism,
Right.
this movie kind of takes almost more. Not, I mean, Green Room, one of my favorite movies.
Also very green.
Also very green. Takes moments and heightens it by using slow motion and like putting classical music over it. This is kind of like doing like a half measure where they go with a very blurry shutter, and it kind of takes on this kind of almost magical aspect that I think they're like half doing.
Yeah.
It's
choice. Muddled. It's muddled as well.
I liked it.
Yeah.
I thought okay, in comparison, because then I went afterwards and watched Rise of the Foot Soldier a little bit to do some comparisons.
Wait,
and
what's Rise of the Foot Soldier?
Another football hooliganism film to do some frame of reference. And their approach was
Don't search for that one either.
No, yeah, don't. Very good again.
Yeah, but you never compliment my bits.
It's good. One-liners right there. He's on point. That one is the very shaky, I'm going to like shake the camera all over the place to hide as much of the non-contact hits as possible. Right. I do agree that on Green Street Hooligans, it was clean. It was better. It was like it brought you in.
They're doing
more.
an artsy choice, and they're trying to make it feel different. And it's not heightened violence. It is like kind of, honestly, this is someone who's falling in love with this subculture. So
Right.
Like, from his point of view, it does make sense that he is getting something almost like this magical realism aspect of it, where it is.
Right.
It's a high, is what I think they're trying
Totally.
to do.
That's something they do well. I think in the tunnel scene where he first gets involved in a fight.
Yeah.
I think that's really well done as a coming together of opposition groups, and that fighting in that tunnel, it does feel well. And I do like the shot where Elijah Wood like gets back up from the ground. I think that shot itself is well done. It's like kind of this speed, a little speeded up. But yeah, overall, I think that was one of the positive parts for sure.
I'm trying to remember now if the final conflict has the same treatment, because
the score ruins it.
What they do make a strong choice there.
Oh god, it's like it totally takes away from it, but it takes you
It's
away
also
from
the end of the magic for the fight. The fight is no longer magic.
It's a bizarre music choice.
It really is. And there are several.
It's not just the end. There's
right.
Like, why would you? I mean, like, I know it's mid-2000s, and it suffers from a lot of problems that mid-2000s movies have when it comes to picking. Just like, we'll just pick something that's popular. It doesn't matter if it fits in. This literally the first song in here is the opening to "Down with the Sickness." They cut it before so you might not have caught it, but it's like you can hear it, and it just cuts to Houghton.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it is. It's throughout. It's and that really. Again, I guess we'll get to the evaluation at the end, but really changed some perspectives for me.
I did like that bit where Hatcher's punching up Pete and he's doing the football chant. Like that was
that was
strong
emotional
for me.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it was like
really
the singing the song.
Yeah,
for sure.
I also want to sidebar into talking about the amount of dudes just singing songs together.
Yeah.
And I know that's
real.
Actually a cultural thing.
Very real.
This is maybe the biggest difference between like football and like any sport in America.
it
It's like,
really
we've got our
is.
seventh inning
We
stretches.
have
We've got our
college
short chance
fight
for baseball.
songs, which is maybe the closest that I can think of.
Right. But okay, so like when I was in Brazil for Carnival last year, I did a whole fun trip and then tagged on Carnival at the end because I just realized like, oh, it's next week and I don't have a strong enough reason to be back. And one of the things we did for that is I went to kind of my first like stadium football game. I've been to some MLS games. I've actually covered the All-Star game a couple times with Feature Man. We'll cut that because that's just for Gavin and no one else knows what the fuck I'm talking about. But so it was a fucking Brazilian football match. It's as crazy as you think it would be, even for like a minor game. This is just like teams within Rio. No one's gonna fight each other, but it's also one where it's just like half of the stadium is full and the other half is just like, we don't really care enough. Our team's not good enough. But the reason I bring this up is because it was 90 minutes of just one long song.
Right.
The audience never shut the fuck up. They just did an entire score to the match, and I always just assumed like, like your fight song, a song. No, there's like 18 fucking songs you have to know.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
It's a
and
huge
obviously in
difference.
this case, they're in Portuguese, so I'm left behind.
Right. You are spot on because
so
it's
loud, Jesus Christ.
and
Well,
it's
it's
one
the
of the
Vuvuzela
criticisms.
And
on
it's
top.
Brazilian, so it is louder than Britain.
Yeah, depending where you go, I think. But
It's in Brazil.
right. But your point, I mean, there are some London stadiums that are
Okay.
massive, right?
I
but
just don't know if you ever talked to a Brazilian.
No, but totally agree. I totally agree with you. And the songs are a huge point, and it is one of the criticisms from I think people that are English that then come to the States and watch sports here. Is it's like, let's go whoever, that's your chant, right? Yeah, exactly, right,
We want a pitcher, not a belly itcher.
right. You know, it's
That's
Yeah,
very
take me out to the
limited.
ball game.
It's
I
very,
would say that's
okay.
I feel
That's
like
the
baseball.
only song.
Which
I
is,
feel like baseball has the right amount of audience interaction for a
Well,
sport. If I'm being
But
honest,
that is the only song.
I mean,
Let's go out to the ball. What is it? Let's go out to the ball.
let's go out to the ball game. I'm gonna make some
Right.
enemies real quick by saying that like both baseball and soccer or football are
no, keep making enemies.
similarly similarly paced compared to say
Mhm.
American football and basketball, which American football has a lot of stops, whereas football doesn't.
I'll get really passionate about this in a
Uh,
minute. It's-
But like I've been to mostly like I haven't gone to a lot of sports games. When I've gone has been to basketball, and that is fast.
Yeah.
It is a game that moves very quickly. It's high
Okay.
scoring,
And most importantly, numbers go up.
and I think
Right.
I think it's harder to find time to
It's important
sing.
as an American. Numbers go up.
so my blood's boiling. So football is very strategic,
Yes.
right? So
Number
there's
go
like,
nowhere.
Again, I played it for years. I played it like second grade through
And I-
seventh grade.
I love it when Americans say this. I played it for years, and it's literally like when they were introduced to it to make friends,
Yeah, for 10 years from 5 to 15. Yeah.
basically,
Got
and it's
second place every year.
with a rosette for all the places in the entire like little league,
Hey,
whatever it
second
is.
place counts.
Yes, absolutely.
It's about
But it's
First
a
place
huge
indoor
difference.
league, which I know isn't real.
I think and in the film too, so that he does go and do his little coaching session,
Oh,
yeah, which was
He's a
again
teacher,
right. He's coaching the boys, which is it's a lot different coaching the kids in England or Britain for football.
Because
In
they have to learn all the songs.
I assume that's half of the school.
part of the education, yeah. But it's a different mentality for sure. It's a different objective. You're putting your children in football because it is the sport of the country. I mean, there's rugby as well, and there are other sports for sure, but football is it. So when you're putting your kids into football in England, it's like you are wanting them to progress and really, venture into the upper
I
level.
feel like every other father wants their kid to be a footballer,
yeah.
especially if you got a son. Like,
And here there are like 6 sports that really you can like, and football or soccer isn't one of the elite ones. It's like American football, hockey, basketball, baseball,
Yeah, there's
right?
4.
Yeah.
It's those 4.
Yeah, right. That's 4.
Those are the ones people care about. And hockey, our real version of soccer, it is essentially the same sport. Although I will say, So maybe fans don't fight as much in hockey, but the players certainly fight more than footballers do.
Which is still crazy that
Yeah.
it's like I think
I'm a pat-
And
at
numbers
least.
slightly go up. Those games usually end like 3-4.
true.
Yeah.
And my daughter just saw hockey on TV for the first time recently, and she's like, "They're allowed to fight," and I'm like,
allowed's a stretch.
"Oh,
No, they're allowed to fight.
yeah, they are. They just get penalized.
Yeah.
You get in the penalty box, right?
But
But
the term is like 5
it's
for
part of the
fighting. That's
game.
just, yeah.
it's part of the
That
game.
means it's not allowed. It may be part of the game, but I'm just saying, like, you do get penalized for it.
Okay,
You're breaking a rule.
In
You
in
say
football, if
penalised?
you
Yeah.
can get
Penalised.
banned in football if you
don't
get in a fight with
correct
another player. You're not getting banned if you're getting a fight in
Sure.
hockey.
But I mean, you get yellow cards, red cards. I got carded a bunch because I was tall and people used to run into me and fall down. And that was just part of soccer.
That is, yes.
Gavin, the gentle
Got lots of
giant,
cards. Collected them like Pokemon.
and then quit at the age of 7.
I just changed schools a lot. It got tiring to
Sure.
join new teams. Like,
Sure.
I feel like it is time to pass our judgments.
you mean some sort of like qualitative assessment of this motion picture?
That is exactly what I mean. Would you like to inform our audience what our patented, never-changing 3-tier
Sure.
system is?
Yeah. Well, so we're going to take Green Street Hooligans and decide if it's still good, if it's better as a memory, or if we should shove a credit card into its mouth and just give him a couple good whacks to the stomach and see if we can leave it smiling on bleeding out on the side of the sidewalk.
The DVD. Put that in the mouth.
Yeah.
Mm.
Laser disc.
That would be brutal.
Should we shove a laser disc in its mouth?
Yeah.
That's like a little bit like putting the light bulb in and then punching.
You'd look like
Yeah.
you'd look like a Muppet when
Yeah.
Which
Such
is,
inventive violence.
and
across
that
the
is one
pond.
of my favorite British insults.
Muppet.
You fucking Muppet.
You're a Muppet.
Or plonker.
What is
What's
Muppet?
a plonker?
But plonker's just like an idiot.
It sounds like a
Okay.
floating poop.
Yeah, you plonker, Rodney, you plonker. Yeah, Muppet. It's
So
it's more
still
endearing.
good, better as memory, or should we, throw this on the
Do we
curb
never speak of
and
it again?
make it
Curb
bite
stomp it.
down and give it a couple good steps?
Stomp it,
I
right?
mean, there's so many of the things that happened in this movie just seemed like the British version of a curb stomp, which I'm sure you still have.
Oh, there's
They-
no
they
British
call it-
versions of curb stomps. It's just curb stomp.
They actually call it a curb stomp.
Well,
yeah.
they have curbs in England, I guess.
Yeah.
As defined best in American History
Yeah.
X, I assume.
It's
yeah.
actually pavements.
Okay.
Pavements.
But
Sidewalks.
yeah,
Sidewalks, yeah, pavements and sidewalks.
Yeah.
having seen the film most recently, would you like to start? How do you feel?
I'd give it a 5.
5? Well, that's
That's
not
not
part of
in
our
the-
system.
I'm going
5
rogue
out of
here.
still good.
You didn't even
I-
say what the 5's out of. Like,
We'll curb stomp it.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Out the gate.
Because I can't say it's better as a memory because I
Sure.
watched it.
don't worry about that.
yeah, right.
Don't worry about the literalness of it. It's like,
I can.
Is it a good
I
movie?
can understand how it would be better as a memory because it's a classic for a reason,
Mhm.
and a lot of people do like it. I feel like at the time it was better than it is now, but yeah, for me, there was a lot of good shots. There was some good scenes. Don't think it was cast well. The accent was terrible from Charlie. And I don't feel like it really accurately depicted hooligans. And I feel they feel the same way.
Well, that's concise.
That's
Some
good.
unforgivableness captured on celluloid.
would you say it's almost like this movie was made by a bunch of fucking journos?
Probably.
Journos. I was so disappointed. I felt like, for me, again, a fan of the show, knowing where people, go down these paths, I didn't realize how much I was going to have to sign up for It's Better as a memory. I was hoping it was still good, and finding myself cringing a lot more than I thought I would be at so many different aspects. And whether that's because now we've ventured more into film and we understand things more, that might be part of it. But the score, the acting, the accent,
Yeah.
I do think that a lot of people that are true fans of football and understand hooliganism will say that this is not accurate at all. So yeah, for me, definitely better as a memory because I had seen it previously, and I even had to go into IMDb and change my rating.
Wow.
It was that bad, and I was happy to get through it. And I don't think now that I'll ever watch it again. So it's ruined it. This whole experience has ruined it for me, man.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. I'm gonna do a kind of weird thing and say better as a memory for a film I haven't seen, which is not something that I do often. Sage is making a face at me. It's because I remember when this came out, and I remember having either I think I had a copy of like a single from the soundtrack, or I may have even had the DVD and just never watched it because sometimes I would just like get handed, promotional materials, and I think I had a promotional. I think it was a copy of like a single from the soundtrack or something, and it looked cool. I liked Elijah Wood. I wanted to see a movie about soccer hooliganism. Sounded fun, like it sounded interesting, like a subculture that I don't understand. And I think probably why a lot of people did latch onto this movie is the fish out of water nature of it, of someone discovering a subculture, which is like one of my favorite types of movies when it's handled well. It is something very easy to botch. And I do think that there's probably movies that have done this subculture way better. But because of how this was formulated, it was probably a very easy way for people who weren't affiliated with or understood hooliganism to get a taste of it. And it does feel like a taste. It's not a rich, study of the subculture. So yeah, I didn't love it. I was definitely disappointed by the performances. Some of the writing felt a little forced, and it just felt a little rote in certain ways. But I get it. I understand why it probably worked when it did with the people it did. But yeah, better as a memory.
Mate. Yeah, so one thing we didn't talk about with this movie is how sloppy it is. This is a movie that I put in, and I was so confident that it was going to be still good.
Yeah.
And about 5 minutes in, I went, oh no. And a lot of that is like literally, so nothing, I do like a lot of this movie. But it definitely has to overcome a really weak and sloppy opening where I don't buy into anything that's happening. I don't necessarily buy that he would roll over for the roommate at the beginning. I don't buy the premise of like Charlie Hunnam going from like, you're not coming with me to, you know what? I've changed my mind. Actually, I am going to take you to learn something about football and maybe learn something about yourself along the way.
Right.
And there's all these things. There's also something about like how Elijah Wood laughs at things where I am so sure that Elijah Wood knows that he's in a movie. It's just like those interactions aren't believable. And by the end of the movie, I've forgotten about all those problems unless there is like a specific music thing. But even then, the movie doesn't like I don't buy into necessarily that this subculture exists, which is a failing of the movie because it does. And I certainly don't buy the idea that they just hate Journos. The movie doesn't set up why they would hate journalism, which we never talked about
because it's hard to talk about
on this podcast. There is a thing where like journalists would cover hooliganism in such a way where they would not just rank the teams, but they would rank like the different firms.
Yeah.
And that caused a lot of animosity is what my research showed, but that's not a thing that's in the movie. It's just said once and then moved on. And then we have to hear the word Journo at least 50 times, which, as you've established, not a thing people say.
Right. No.
I've never heard that.
Yeah. You're spot on again.
So this is a sloppy movie, and it is better as a memory.
Yeah.
So that's 4 all the way around, although I believe you curb stuffed.
And then said
Yeah.
I'd understand why it'd be better as a memory.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do, and there's like only a few standout like performances, which aren't even consistent through. Like I think Charlie Hunnam at the very end, even if I don't necessarily buy the premise of what's happening, like how he yowls, and again when he yowls, you hear the British in his voice. When he yowls at Tommy, he was your son, you should have protected him. I'm just like, right, that's shit like that is why he got to be a movie star.
Right.
It's just like, that's real good. And also you see his abs a little bit and they're really good. My God, when he walks out, you're just like, oh yeah, Charlie Hunnam.
Yeah.
Movie star.
Yeah, it's right. And I think it's a missed opportunity because you've got this So I think the concept of an American coming over and getting into a culture that no one's really familiar with here in the States, and going over there and all of that storyline is completely missed. It's such a missed opportunity from somebody being out of their element and discovering something that they maybe like, but they don't know why because they've never been exposed to it before. Yeah, the writing there is like they really missed the mark.
The inciting incidents, I really wish almost weren't there in terms of like all the stuff with Harvard feels very silly, like you were saying.
Yeah.
He's pushed into it by, who we find out is it the major or the
Yeah.
Well,
Steve, we totally didn't talk about Steve, the ex-major.
Yeah, and his whole thing is like, I want to get laid, so go hang out with my little brother who is obviously taking part in this thing that I think he should leave. And I don't see how he could think that this American kid would be a good influence on his brother. It's obvious the way that's going to go. He's not going to stay out of trouble.
That's right.
Like
the line was like,
And
we haven't had a
fucking
alone
Journo.
time lately. And he's a Journo. We've done it about 50 times an hour.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
And
it's a
they
bit
said
silly.
that like, we'd like some alone time, please. Go take your go take Matt into this world. Yeah, that was a little bit far-fetched as well.
Yeah. Well,
Voila.
I want to do something we haven't done on this podcast before because it's a little lazy. But as I was going to review this movie on Letterboxd, which is obviously just my West Ham story joke, I encountered some absolutely fascinating reviews.
Oh, you did?
Because people are so colored by memory on this film specifically. This one says, I will defend this film with every fiber of my being. It's probably terrible, but I couldn't give a shit. 4 stars. And this kind of tracks through the whole thing. This might actually be one of the shittiest films I've ever seen. 4 stars. So people are somewhat blinded by this.
or just very gentle reviewers, maybe.
I think haven't you done reviews like there? I think you've mentioned some IMDb reviews before about films, which they are entertaining to read through sometimes. About the ones and which I don't know if any movie really deserves a 1, but
the main reason we don't do it is just because there's enough other podcasts that do specifically that bit. Like
right.
How did this get made?
okay.
Like second opinions, Amazon reviews. It was just coming through with just like, these are a bunch of bad reviews with 4 and 5 stars.
4 and 5 stars, yeah.
on Letterboxd, right?
Watched at least 12 times. Only watched the ending once because I can't see anything bad happen to my boy Charlie.
5 stars.
5 stars. Mate, I'm smart as fuck.
Mate.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. The history professor who thinks that England bailed America out of every major war. Charlie Hunnam.
That's one of those topics as well.
I'm not even saying the opposite. I just think that would be a wild take for a history professor to say.
There are so many one-liners there of Americans saving England out of the war.
What do you think happened?
Well, all right. So
Let's get into it.
What would you want to see from a movie about firms?
Yeah.
I know, because it's not been. I
If
need
you had
see
to
the
make
film
a movie
again.
that had soccer hooligans and maybe British people explaining rhyming slang.
Yeah,
Just can't get away from it.
I think what you can't avoid is it needs to be at least consulted with somebody that was in a firm. Right, that's essential to this, because anybody writing it, unless they are good at both screenwriting and being in a
Research?
firm, right? You're not going to get it
That's two
right.
things.
Right. So you have to at least get somebody that truly and spend time with this person or people and really take the essence of that. And again, doing the comparison to something like This Is England, where the character development and the portrayal by the actors is so raw and so good and so true that it makes that film brilliant, right? That's what you have to do. These characters are lukewarm at best in representing this culture.
That brings up something that, like, when I was watching this movie, I was reminded of, like, the type of movies that were coming out at this time too, because like we've talked about it a lot on this podcast, where it's like the divide between, I tend to look at it as 9/11, really changing just the culture in terms of like, got Matrix, Fight Club, all these movies where you're searching for purpose. You're aimless. I've heard it mentioned too in like there's a movie called Dead Alive that I'm a big fan of, where they refer to what we need is another war, because we've got all these young men who don't have any purpose and
just creating fight clubs everywhere.
Yeah, instead of fighting Nazis. So
yeah, right.
We used to fight Nazis in this country.
You say used to.
Sadly, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But so, this movie feels like, even though it happened after 9/11, it's a movie in search of purpose. And I think it kind of doesn't land because there's enough things that feel forced to try and set him on that path, in terms of like getting kicked out of Harvard. And it feels harder to make that kind of movie now. And I'm curious, like I don't know what you make in terms of, and part of that maybe is that firms are less popular too than they were back then, when life just seems so much more chaotic.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. And did anybody look at, I wanted to research if there was any information behind the writer Lexi Alexander, right? And where that all came from?
So Lexi Alexander was like a professional kickboxer. Like, she comes at this from, she had a whole separate career in martial arts and then comes through stunts. So I think the interest here, and she even like got an Academy Award nomination for
right,
for
sure.
Film, Johnny Flynn, I think.
It's a short film, right? I saw
yeah.
that.
It's
I mean, I did
40
see
minutes,
the film,
but I guess that is in the shorts category. And then does this, and then does Punisher Warzone, a movie that's out of its goddamn mind, that is clearly only interested in stunt work. I love that film. And then just Director's Jail after that, doing TV, because Director's Jail doesn't have a lot of gender equality in it.
Right.
Sure.
Right. No, that's, I looked up that history as well, and
she's German as well. So, like, I don't necessarily know if this was, like, something she was passionate about telling, or just, like, I'll do a fight movie.
Yeah, it just seems a very strange, I mean, it takes a lot, we all know, right? It takes a lot of time and effort and dedication to getting a film like this done, but she wrote and directed it, right? Yeah. So she wrote the screenplay as well.
Okay, so that infers a certain amount of interest.
Yeah. But to be interested in something like this from the outside in is quite interesting. And I also did want to note that it did win South by Southwest for the Grand Jury Award and the Audience Award, which is also happening this week. So it did have a win.
Playing out there on Friday.
Oh yeah, congratulations by the way as well for great stuff with that film, out for delivery, right? Yeah, it's awesome.
Okay, also she grew up in Mannheim, so just throw out a lot of stuff that I said.
Oh, nice.
She was a member of the Mannheim City Boys, which I guess is their soccer firm.
Yeah.
So she lived it, is what you're saying.
I don't know, man.
Give us a quick research. And
it also says that later in life she was a vigilante.
So she
had a skull on her chest and just killed a bunch of Italians in New York.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be interesting to talk to her about it. I mean, where this all came from. I would love to know.
Lexi, write into the podcast.
Yeah. We are dying.
We will
to know.
talk to you about Punisher Warzone. My God.
That's
well.
right.
It sounds like, let's get on to recommendations, I suppose. I think
I didn't get to that. I have a pitch.
Mm.
I have a football pitch, if you will.
I'm sorry.
That was for you guys. Set this movie in Brazil. I think one of the things you're talking about when you're like, how do you how do you update this? Is one is just like, I don't think there's really anything to gain by having this be a fish out of water story.
Mm-hmm.
I'd certainly get rid of one thing that we didn't bring up that is my least favorite thing about this movie, and the most like early 2000s thing is every like 30 minutes you'll just get some terrible Elijah Wood voiceover that doesn't belong in the movie at all. That's sort of like, I never saw Pete again, but I learned what he just like, what is this scent of a woman bullshit?
You know, once a journo, always a journo.
Yeah.
So.
But like, if you have this as you're treating like the hooliganism a little bit more like a crime organization, not that they need to like steal DVDs out of a moving truck or engage in high octane adrenaline sports as covers for crime. That's a Point Break reference that I did not really nail my way through. I want the City of God version.
Right,
of this,
I was just going to say that.
Where someone in Brazil is like just inhabiting a space that is too violent for him through sport.
Yeah, another film that does Raw very well. And I heard that episode as well. I thought it was well done.
In Brazil, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that was such a great film, and again a great.
It doesn't
review.
have to be Brazil. You could tell this movie in like South Africa or like a lot of places that you know value football more than we do. It doesn't have to be England, but even if you're doing this movie in England again, like I don't think the fish out of water part really adds anything to this. And I think certainly the other movies that we're probably about to talk about in a second, like don't have the fish out of water thing. They're just British people doing British shit and not having to explain their writings, their slang to anyone.
No, it's really like the main driving points in this don't really seem to actually help the movie much.
Yeah.
But before we go to those movies, I do want to mention this. Aside from Punisher Warzone, this movie does have a slight legacy, which is that there are at least 2 sequels to it. Green Street 2 follows one of the guys who got pinched, and he's just in prison through the whole movie. And
he's in the first.
Do you remember? There was a period where all of these movies got multiple direct-to-DVD sequels until eventually they would be in a movie starring one famous British martial artist. Do you know who is the star of Green Street 3?
God.
Yeah. Did you know, or did you just guess?
There's just like one.
Because that keeps happening. I mean, that's what happened to like Undisputed. Well, you'd know if it was Jason Statham, right? Yeah. No, there's plenty, but that's the one who's in the direct-to-DVD bullshit.
Yeah,
because he's in multiple Undisputed sequels. Like that just keeps happening.
Well,
like these direct-to-DVD ones will eventually either have Michael J. White or Scott Adkins or both.
I was kind of surprised when you said that the director's background was in stunts, and because I do think that this movie, part of what we talked about, the way that it handles fight scenes, is it kind of seems to almost avoid choreography.
Yeah.
And
takes the Godfather approach.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that kind of works for like this type of structure of fights that would exist in this. But does the Scott Adkins or Michael J. White type of that? Does it become a kung fu film?
I'm sure. I'm sure. Even Undisputed, which is a boxing movie, becomes a kung fu film.
What I will say, what was absolutely brilliant. Sorry.
No, keep going. That's good. All right.
Was when at the end, Bother did that double fly kick. Do you remember the double fly?
In the most dramatic moment, it's just like, no, go help Elijah Wood. Go help the wife, and he just runs and
get
just
them out of here safely.
That was great.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think
just
like
total whiplash through this whole thing.
I mean, that's a very different way to take this movie in terms of doing a full-on like martial. Like, I mean, wouldn't be because we obviously
I would love that movie.
We have Kung Fu Hustle, which is a great movie.
No, I want the Shaolin Soccer.
That's
version
what I meant. Shaolin Soccer.
Isn't that
Shaolin
Wendy
Soccer
Wu
Hooligans.
Homecoming? Did you ever watch that?
No.
What?
Wendy Wu Homecoming. It was on Disney Channel. It's about a football.
Wait, have you not
artist.
seen Shaolin Soccer?
Oh, it's a real thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
Shaolin Soccer is a
Have you
delight.
seen it?
I've heard of it. No, I haven't seen it.
Oh, it's great.
Stephen Chow, who more famously did Kung Fu Hustle, which did make its way worldwide. But before that, he did a movie which is basically like martial artists creating a soccer team, and they've all got different. One of them's like the Iron Head. One of them's the Iron.
They
Foot.
all have different martial arts disciplines.
It's
So
like
like,
galactic football.
You should watch.
You should definitely watch it. That's my
I love it when people say you
recommendation
should
now.
definitely
It's-
watch it after describing it.
We thought about
You're
like
not
doing it on
selling
the
it.
podcast, but I don't know a way to talk about that movie
it's an
beyond like remember this
extremely-
thing,
it's
remember
an
this thing.
It's an extremely charming, like silly romantic comedy that has like
Oh yeah, the baker.
heightened soccer to the point of like magic.
Okay.
It's like they're super powered people playing soccer, and they're fighting like the villains are basically robots. It's wild.
Are you getting sold on this? It's just pushing me further away.
It's a
Not really,
great
Did you
but
like Kung
I
Fu
might-
Hustle?
I haven't seen that either.
The fuck.
Kung Fu
No,
Hustle's
I know. I'm
great.
so sorry, Sage. There are going to be films that I have not
It's-
seen.
Well, that's
as
been
well.
our time.
Get out.
Kung Fu Hustle. Come on,
It's
No,
it's a
we-
bruv.
it's
We
a
will
delight.
take recommendations though all day.
Yeah. No,
With it-
it's
we
some of the
will.
most imaginative use of like special effects
Okay,
in a
fair.
sports movie I've ever seen.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's gonna be my
what's it-
recommendation
what's it
before
called
I pass it
again?
to people.
Shaolin-
Wait, which
Talk
one?
about
Shut.
Shaolin Soccer.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Maybe
Kung
it
Fu
was
Hustle.
released in England as something different. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Shaolin football.
Shaolin footy.
The proper word.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Interesting. All right.
It's probably just called like Oriental football in England.
oh. All right. Are we on to recommendations?
Yeah, that was mine. Shaolin Soccer.
God damn.
Nice.
Took
Sold
mine.
it from you.
Oh, did you have that in there?
No, I just wanted to.
Do
steal
they
it.
have to
Uh,
be football related?
No.
No, just like if it sounds like
Cultural?
we didn't like Green Street very much.
Right.
So if you want to get this sort of thing from a movie, like what would this inspire you to watch? Now that
Yeah.
we've done this podcast, what do you actually want to go home and watch right now?
Oof.
Want me to go?
Yeah.
I think there's two factors here. Right? There's the British cultural element, if you really want to dive into that, and then there's also the football part. So I think culturally, again, I think this is England. Human traffic, I think, like is a great comedic cultural reference. They are both excellent cultural British film, and actually one that you recommended to me, Beats,
Mm.
as well.
Yeah,
It's
I
very
think that was the
good.
other way around. No.
No, you recommend. You told me about it, and then I went and watched it and liked it. Again, from a cultural British flavor.
You guys watch Shank?
I'm unfamiliar.
No, but we'll like if it's
It's like an OG. It's an OG British classic.
Shank.
Yeah, I don't fully remember what it's about, but the feeling it gives me is the feeling we wanted from.
Okay.
The cultural reference.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shank. I know. I've heard it's a really good film.
So British culture. I think
Yeah.
those three films and Shank, similar to what you said, like the City of God does. It really, I think it really takes you into that culture. I think those are them. Football movies. I think one of the best football movies I've seen. It's not hooliganism, but is the Damn United.
Mm-hmm.
That is a sensational true story football film. And then United, which is about the Manchester United plane crash, is also a good football reference film. So for me, those couple of football films, not hooliganism, though. I don't think there are any good ones out there.
Well, I will recommend the trailer for the ID because that's all I've seen of it. But that
Really
Like I
wasting our time here.
well, it looks very fun. I'm gonna be
sorry.
honest.
I want a policy on this podcast where we don't recommend trailers. We
Sometimes-
don't recommend things you haven't seen because that's how we get into things where we all watch Green Street Hooligans and we're like, oh yeah.
Sometimes the trailer's better than the movie. I'm looking at you, Cloverfield.
Oh, nice. Cloverfield.
I would recommend. It's one of my pop's favorite movies. Is 24-Hour Party People, which
Oh,
also has to do
yes.
with Manchester.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
That's very fun. Steve Coogan's
Mhm.
just an absolute joy to watch. in
brilliant.
Almost anything.
I love that film.
And how am I forgetting the name of Simon Pegg Edgar Wright TV show? Spaced.
Brilliant. I rewatch that all the time.
Yeah, Spaced is just like one of the best hangout shows I've ever seen. That like effortlessly like cops style constantly. It
Mhm.
has so much fun, and
Yeah.
it's not necessarily the most original in certain ways, but it's just kind of like this tasting platter of like just a bunch of different kind of culture mashed in together with some of the most charming people you'll ever see on screen.
It is, and can I add, because I love it's probably one of my top 5 go back to things. just the silliness in there as well, the Easter eggs, the fact that that's where Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg's relationship began, and how great the writing is, it's a brilliant show. And I've tried to recommend this to other people as well for the same reasons. The hidden gems in there and the storylines are just fantastic. So yeah, I'm glad you said that.
Now, something did just occur to me. I'd be remiss if I didn't recommend this. If you want a movie that like really goes into the actual footballer's psyche, pivoting a little bit, but if you cared about the people actually playing these sports, I haven't seen a movie that does a better job digging into the psyche of an athlete than Society of the Snow.
Why is he laughing? Why is he saying delivering the line?
That's one of those movies about cannibal.
Yeah, it's where the Uruguayan football team crashes in the Andes and has to eat each other to stay alive.
Also called Alive.
These are different movies.
Okay,
but
right.
They are the same
Interesting.
thing, yeah.
Okay.
Also called Yellow Jackets.
That is. Oh, they're a base. They're a football. They're a soccer.
They're a soccer team. Yeah.
This
Yeah,
time
like
it'll
Yellow
get
Jacket.
confusing if I say football team. Yeah. 'Cause
Right.
Even when they land in Canada, it's still soccer.
So what's the one you just mentioned?
Society of the Snow was up for a couple Oscars last year.
right.
Is it a
I think it was the same
Yeah.
story though, wasn't it?
Yeah. No,
It was
it's
the same.
Miracle in
Okay,
the Andes.
gotcha.
It's a true story.
Right.
It's very good.
Right.
And I I leaned on the joke, but I do recommend it, even though it has nothing to do with it. It's a good ass movie. Yeah.
No, it's
Yeah.
it's great.
Is it on Netflix?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eat that mic, man.
Sorry.
Well,
Was it on Netflix?
Yeah.
thank you guys so much for joining. I think.
I feel like one of these lads might have things to pitch.
Oh yeah. Do you have anything you'd like to announce to our basically Paul's daughter is our
She does love the show. She will be thankful to be referenced. Well, we have a music video that just got released for Coraloo called Dry Shampoo. It just got released yesterday, which is great. It was a lot of fun. You can Google it or YouTube it on Dry Shampoo music video and it'll come up. And we're in post on a lot of stuff. Once Upon a Riot, which Atlas was in, which is kind of a fun connection, and also was an American going to London and being out of his cultural
water.
Yeah, fish out of water. Is
And a kid
forthcoming.
dies. Jokes. Is that a spoiler? Cut that out.
So lots
Like
of
in
fun
Main Street.
stuff.
Yeah.
So we have a few things in post that we'll present in the future because we hope to return. It would be great to come back. Thank you guys.
Mhm. Thank you.
And Atlas, you mentioned you're multi-Ontarian. Yeah.
I'm working on my next art exhibition that will be in London. I'm collaborating with a chef, so each of my paintings will be represented by a dish as well.
That's super cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
I'm really looking forward to it. That should be fun. And then I'm working on 2 features at the moment and writing a book. You can find me at Atlas Azure on Instagram. Can I plug myself?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. You might want to spell that.
Yeah, so Atlas is in the map, ATLAS.
That wasn't the part that.
ATLASAZURE, and that's me. Thank you.
I guess
Z is Z for American.
Yeah, for American audience.
Oh, nice one at the end there. Yeah, Zed. That's a classic.
Z.
Instagram at Paul James Movies. It's a fairly easy one. I might as well pitch that as well while we're doing it.
Yeah, why not? You never know.
You never know.
And we continue to be at Still Good Pad on various. I said it again. This is like the 3rd time in a row I've said Still Good Pad, which is what we're doing to our podcast right now. stillgoodpod@gmail.com and on Instagram. Let us know what you think. Leave us a rating on various things, and maybe you too can invade Gavin's living room. All right, thank you so much. Cheeky Nando's?
Getting the cheeky Nando's.
That has made me incredibly hungry.
I'm forever blowing bubbles